Let's face it, people just don't want to listen to you. Or should I say, they don't want to listen to you when you have a different opinion than theirs, which seems to have become a pretty common pattern in those days. Speaking of which, a pattern interrupt or a pattern interruption is specifically when you stop letting yourself be led in the conversation and start taking the lead over others, at least at a specific time where it is required to take the lead. I personally used to try to defend myself whenever I was being attacked, and I didn't realize soon enough that by defending yourself, defending your position, defending your arguments, you are putting yourself in the victim position anyway, because you are already on the spotlight of you have to grab something back. On the opposite, what a pattern interrupt will do is cut that short, prevent yourself from being seen as the victim in any sort of conversation, and start being put at the observer, not the dominator, it's not about this, but the observer of the situation as a distant observer rather than somebody fighting inside the conversation. Before you can fully understand how pattern interruption works though, let's clarify what you haven't understood yet. Whenever you meet people, you, me, anyone else, whenever you meet people, they form stories. They form stories implicitly about you, about who you are. The first minute you open your mouth, they have already created, often unconsciously, a story about who you are, what is your backstory, what do you want from them, what do you want from that conversation. They have already a story backed up in their head, whether they are conscious of this or not. They also have a story about themselves, about who they are, about what their problems in life are. And quite often in therapy sessions we notice that the stories people have told themselves about their problems are completely irrational and not real at all. It is just their ego creating a story about what's going wrong, which is not in the end what will help them, but they come with a whole bag of expectations about, oh, I should do this and change that. Not at all. And finally, they may have stories about others. You may talk with somebody and you and them have a gentle conversation, but you start talking about Republicans or Democrats or anything, and same thing going on. They have a preconceived story about, oh yeah, those people, I don't like them. Oh, those people, I hate them. In the end, people create stories all the time for any sort of reasons. And more specifically, because it is a saving mental hassle to have to figure out things with concrete details. So the first thing to understand before you can master pattern interruption skillfully is which specific story are you trying to interrupt and cut short? Which story are you trying to reframe? When you think about, oh, I want to be able to use a pattern interrupt in this conversation with that person, which specific story are you trying to interrupt? Is it a story about what they think of you? Is it a story about what they think of themselves? If you sell something, the client may think that he will never succeed with his goals, and your job as the marketer might be to convince them that actually they will succeed with your product, obviously, or at least they will succeed in one way or another. Or is it a story that they tell about other people that is annoying you because you have stuff you want to defend, values you want to portray? Maybe you are vegan, maybe you are Democrat, whatever you want to defend, or you are a capitalist. Whatever you want to defend, you may not like the stories people tell about others that you would like to defend, and in that case, how can you interrupt that story without being disrespectful? It's not about attacking people, it's about showing there is an alternative to their way of thinking and that you can respect each other too. So for me specifically, things changed when I stopped trying to argue like the victim and start putting people in the defense position and me being the observer of the situation instead of reacting emotionally to what they say. One first example is to exaggerate on purpose the claims they have, the argument they have, the opinions they hold. To exaggerate on purpose because you know they never said that, but you are outlining it to make them defend like a child trying to pretend he's something more. It's not like a gentle thing in any conversation. I would say this is like a last resort when the person really does not want to listen to you and is not respecting at all your point of view. Specific example. Long ago, I was talking with a person who was a heavy anti-capitalist or even anti-money anyway, like not even Elon Musk size, but just money anyway. It is the root of all evil, it is demoniac, whatever, it is just evil. I was talking that day about a friend of mine who was building some side hustle with those those apps where you have to deliver food. Not sure which one it was, but a friend of mine who was delivering food, and he was hiring people to deliver food with his account. The way he was doing it, he was giving the money to the people working for him, completely okay. However, it was kind of slightly illegal to use the same account for people, whatever the story was. That person I was talking about this with said, yeah, it is so terrible, those people, they are scamming poor workers, oh, I can't stand that. And at this point I was kind of getting annoyed and losing patience with that person, so I said, yeah, if I follow your logic, we should all just stay poor and beg in the streets for money, because any type of work is a scam, if I follow you correctly, right? And the person said, well, no, it's not, no, and that person just stopped talking. I was just annoyed of constantly hearing about money is bad, it should not be made. At some point, what do you do with your life before criticizing others? So that's why I kind of lost patience here and used that interruption. On a conscious level, obviously, I know that person didn't mean that, but I exaggerated on purpose to cut short to the conversation that I was not interested in following anymore. Another example to express this concept of putting people on the defense position instead of yourself trying to defend by arguing is whenever you disagree with somebody. Whatever the topic is, it may be in your family, it may be in your relationships, friends, intimate, it may be at work, whatever. Whenever you disagree with somebody, instead of arguing and saying, no, I disagree, no, you're wrong, yes, but what about this? In that case, you're just trying to defend and being in the child position of trying to get validation by showing you're right. Instead of doing that, what you can do is calling out for clarification on purpose. So instead of saying I disagree or you're wrong or whatever you say, instead of saying that, ask a question, ask them, how many people do you think agree with you? Specifically, not, oh, everyone. Specifically, how many people agree with you? And you pause. You let them process the question. That was one of my common questions to end any debate that I thought was just getting nowhere. I said, okay, you have this presupposition and you think you know everything. How many people really agree with you? Because so far from all the people I know personally, you are the only one who think like that. Maybe I met 2 people like you, most maximum. You say your truth is the absolute truth. Your opinion is the absolute, oh, you're right about everything. How many people do you think believe the same thing you believe? How many people specifically think like you? Because I don't know that many who think like you. You're trying to preach your opinion is the absolute opinion that everyone should follow your ideas, but I don't see many people agreeing with you anyway. So when you tell me I should argue back with you, why? Why should I even justify anything to you? In which position do you think you are to make me argue, to make me justify anything, whereas I don't even have to? Who do you think you are to do that specifically? So calling out for specific numbers or facts for other people is putting you in an observer position, and even if in the end they might be right because there is this fact and this fact, doesn't matter. They may be right and you may be wrong. The point is not to argue anymore, it is to put yourself in an observer position, and using a question like this, like how many people do you think agree with you, it is an interruption because it is not the most empathetic or the nicest way of answering to somebody. It is not the nicest thing to say either, because you may sound like you're putting yourself in confrontation, and obviously I would suggest to only use that in specific situations, not all the time, because it might really be sounding like a dick if you always say that. It is just in the situations where, in my opinion, where somebody is trying to impose a worldview on you, and you're not interested in any way in taking on that worldview. If you want to educate yourself on it, you can do this on your own free time, but discussing with that person, you're just not interested in obeying to their worldview. In that case, why would you even argue? If the person is imposing you should believe like this, why do you even argue? Why don't you just distance yourself by putting yourself as an observer and calling out with how many people do you think agree with you? And don't let them answer, oh, everyone that I know. Specifically, how many people? On the 7 billionth individuals on Earth, how many specifically can you tell, would think like you? Because I don't think like you and I don't think I should. So which evidence do you have to try to prove to me that I should think like you? And if you want to develop your skills with communicating more fluently, with being able to get yourself out of toxic situations and being able to take the lead whenever you think you need to take the lead, you have a document down below in the description called the 7 Steps to Master Sleight of Mouth, which can be of great use whenever you are stuck in a conversation and whenever you want to improve your level in persuading and influencing others in an ethical way, obviously.